Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Dad with a bike here. And we're in my garage again because we're going to finish up and do a bunch of maintenance. So I'm going to do a handful of videos here. The one that we're going to do specifically right now is we're going to clean my air filter. Now, in the last video, I talked about the air filter that I have. I have a Trask intake. So we're going to take that thing off and we're going to clean it. I'll show you the chemicals that I use to clean it. And we'll also walk through the whole process of getting to the air filter. Now the great thing is there's a handful of other things that we're going to do, and I'll post a few of these other videos. One of them is going to be around lubing my clutch cable, and then walking around the bike and doing some general lube, general maintenance, looking at things, making sure it's all bueno. And then I also got in my, pull it up, dun dun, dyno jet. My PV3 came in, so we're also going to put that on. So while I got the tank off and I'm monkeying around with the air filter, we're going to put that on and we're going to route it, all that good stuff. I have a tier 1 tuner on there right now, but I wanted to move to the PV3 so I could have a lot more fun tuning the bike and do much more on that. So then that will be awesome. But anyway, stick around. This video specifically is air filter. All right, so here we are. We're about to swap out the air filter. The bike is fully put together right now, and I've got it on my little scissor jack because I like to work on it level while I'm doing any kind of maintenance. So of course, what we have to be able to do to get to the air filter, we have to take the tank off. And in order to take the tank off, there's a handful of things you've got to do. Got to pull this seat off. Pop that over there. And we'll talk through really how this is going to go down. So I'm going to remove these bolts right here. There's 4 of them. So we'll remove those. Then we're going to slide over here. And then we're going to remove this cover so that we can get to things, because we need to pull the tank up a bit to get to, let's see if I can get you in there, the fuel line, to disconnect the fuel line, and then the tank will just come right on out. And I will, I'm gonna try and walk through as much of this as possible. So that's the plan. That'll expose our air filter, and then we'll be able to get to that. So we'll be back in just a minute. All right, everybody. So the very first thing we're gonna do is actually remove this cover. It's not that difficult. There's 4 bolts. I've already removed 3 of them. They're the 3 smaller bolts. That's basically what they are. Put them down there so we don't lose them. There's 1 left in there, so we can actually remove the plate. And when you actually do this, you're gonna use one of these 5mm. So 5mm will fit all of them. It's real simple. Pull that sucker off. And then you gotta do this one-handed. The whole cover will come off. Put that down, and it'll expose all of this. But really, what we're interested in is exposing this fuel line. So we have to disconnect this fuel line in order to actually remove the tank. So to disconnect the fuel line, it's a pinch disconnect. There's a little button on the top and a little button on the bottom. And what you have to do is you have to pinch them and disconnect the fuel line. Before you do that, you want to make sure you stuff some rags and whatnot to catch any kind of excess fuel that will fall out. It isn't going to pour out. You're not going to like empty your tank when you pull this off. It's like a dribble or 2, and that's it. So it's no big deal. But once we move this, unplug this, then we'll go to the top side and we'll take care of the 4 bolts that are up there, and then we can remove the tank. So be back in a second, and we'll have swung around and had those 4 bolts off. So be back in just a minute. Alrighty, here we are. Simply those 4 bolts are already out, so I'm just gonna push that one off so you can see me actually take a bolt out, but that's it. Stick those off to your side. I'm gonna peel the rest of those off, and then we'll remove the tank. And then we'll be back in just a second. Almost forgot to tell everybody, not just do you have to remove those 4 bolts, but you have to also take these out, these little, so remove this one and remove this one, because these are connected up in there, and that's for like overflow and stuff like that. So you got to disconnect those. And once you disconnect those, then you can remove the gas tank. So be back in a second. All right, everybody, so we're in the process of removing the tank. If you look up in there, use my flashlight, there is the that little electronic cable you got to take off. And if you notice, so here's that fuel line. You do need to push that fuel line kind of up so that it kind of clears. And you do have to just kind of like wiggle it around. You be a little gentle with it, but you don't have to be like super gentle with it. So get it up and out of the way. So now that's up and out of the way. So when I pull the tank off, it should just come up no problem. And then this is just a pinch. So if you look up in there, you pinch on either side, and that cable will, or that plug will just come right undone. So make sure you do that. So there's one on that side, there's one on the other, and it literally is just like the fuel line. You pinch it and then pull. So be back in a minute with the tank removed. All right, so here we are. Tank is removed. Tank is sitting over there happily. And yeah, I would say that we need to clean that air filter. So clearly 10,000 miles is necessary. So this is the Trask intake, and I need to remove this. And in order to remove this for me, let's see where I can get to it. So this needs to come out. This it needs to come off this hose, and then there is there you go. You can kind of see it. There's that hose right there. That also needs to come out, and then this whole thing will come up, and we'll be good to go. So when you come back, I'll have that air filter off. So we'll be back in a second. All right, everybody. I have the intake out, and she's dirty, like really dirty. And we're gonna clean that sucker out, but this is what I'm gonna use. I've used this before on other air cleaners, like with vehicles and stuff. I like it. It's pretty cheap, no problem. You have the cleaner, and then you have the spray-on filter, or spray-on oil rather. So it's pretty simple. Just follow the directions. So you know, when we do this, we'll have to spray this on. We have to go wash, clean the filter. You can use just plain old water in your sink, whatever, to get it clean. And then this is going to have to dry before we can actually put the oil on. So it'll wash it, clean it, put this out to dry, then put the oil on it, and then put it back on that sucker. So one of the things I'm going to do right now is we're going to walk over to my toolbox, or to my tools, and we're going to grab just a shop towel, and we are going to drape it over that intake right there so that bugs and whatever else don't figure out how to crawl down in there. Anyway, so by the time we come back, it'll be clean, and we put this back together. So see you in a while.
One eternity later.
Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. Well, as you can tell, that looks like a brand new filter. So, bueno, we got it all washed, applied the oil, so it's ready to go back on, which is what we're going to do now. And essentially, the order in which I'm going to do this is, of course, this is going to go back on. It's got to get reattached to all the hoses. Then I'll put my tank back on. When I put my tank back on, I'll plug back in electrical connectors as well as the fuel line, and then I will put the 4 bolts back in and reconnect the overflow stuff, and then put the cover back on, and that will be that for the air filter change and maintenance. So anyway, we'll be back in just a bit. Oh, by the way, the whole drying effort took a few hours. It took a while for it to get dried. So just be patient with that. So make sure that when you do this maintenance, you've got some extra time on your hands. So anyway, we'll be back in just a second. Well, all right, everybody. She is all back together, except for the seat, because I got some other stuff I'm going to do with the seat that has to do with that bad boy right there. But we're going to talk about that in a different video. Anyway, it's all back together. This was for the filter change, of course. So gas tank's back on. I plugged the fuel line back in. Plugged the electrical plug back in. I guess it's for like the fuel pump and etc. that's up inside the tank. And then put back the cover. 4 volts back on. Voila. Bueno, bueno. So it is all done. All right, guys. Well, we're all finished with the 10,000 mile maintenance on this Indian Scout Bobber, specifically for the intake. So we took all that apart, took the gas tank off, took everything off associated with the air filter, cleaned it, and I used a couple of different chemicals. I used a cleaner, and then I used an oil. I showed those at the beginning. The instructions are on them, so it's really simple to do. It's not that complicated to do this part of your 10,000 mile maintenance. So so far in this kind of series, the first one we did was the oil change. This one is just the air filter. The next one we're probably going to do is just some general lube stuff. I'll show you how I do my chain, or not my chain, but my clutch cable, and all the different stuff that I do kind of around that. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful. And please do me a favor, leave a comment, tell me what you thought, what you think I could do to improve. And always do me a favor, hit that like, subscribe, and notify buttons. And you all be nice to each other. And we'll see you in the next video. Peace.